Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Mac.
And today we're giving our first impressions of Cóatl, which is a very colorful game you can see here. And you are making these snake dragon-like creatures out of these plastic pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Some very cool pieces. You can check out our unboxing video of this one to see all of those. I think pretty good quality. I'd say maybe the only thing is you put all these like middle pieces in the bag, and sometimes they kind of get stuck together. So when you're like refilling this,
them up.
There's this area that you throughout the game you're picking pieces out from this center area. So sometimes when you're pulling them out to put them out there, you've got some stuck together. But outside of that,
They're paired.
just shows that it's going to be pretty good when you're putting them together in
Right.
your own thing.
Especially when they're on backwards hooks.
Exactly. But yeah, it's a relatively simple game.
Yeah. Once you get into it.
Yeah, you're creating these snakes or dragon.
Cóatls.
Would you say? Okay, creating these cóatls with
Yes,
these
they are
different
snakes.
with these different patterns.
I believe they're snakes.
On them of the different
Feathered
colors.
snakes.
And those patterns you're building are based off of you get like this hand of cards, and you can dedicate, or I don't remember technically what the term is, but pretty much dedicate a card to a snake, so then at the end of the game you will score if you meet those conditions. I think you have to meet the condition at least once. Some of them allow you to meet it multiple times. Once you meet it at least once, you can add that card to that snake, and you can add up to 4 cards to each snake, and then total you'll do 3 of them in the game. And then once someone does 3, it'll kind of trigger the end game, and the other players will be able to try to complete their snakes as well.
Finish out.
Because you can kind of add as much or as little as you want to a snake each turn, which I feel like is a little bit different than other games, and I think I do like that. You just have to remember, because the other option, well, not the other option, the other thing you're doing at the beginning of each of your turns is kind of gaining the new pieces. You either gain kind of that head piece, and tail piece, and if you do that, you're just taking one of those at a time and kind of adding them to this board. You have a holding area of like 8 pieces it can hold, or else you take, there's kind of areas of 2 body segments in each one, and you can take 2 of those. So you just have to remember by the end of your turn, if you're going to possibly take body segments next time, to leave 2 spaces open. So you have to at least add down to that, I found.
Yes, which I think only got tight towards the end when we were like really struggling to get the colors we needed.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then I think it's unique too because along with the cards in your hand, so you start off with 3 and you have a hand limit of 5. There's kind of like a tableau of cards out, so you can try and maybe collect some cards from one of your Cóatls or for splitting them or 2 of them. And then there's also these temple cards, which we each got our own private one at the beginning to like try and score with. And then there's like 2 public temple cards. So if you complete a Cóatl and you meet one or both of the conditions on the temple cards, you can take that one to score for that Cóatl, which has some interesting things with like patterns to the snake or the length of the snake in total, stuff like that. Then so those are the temple cards, which are kind of just like the big goal scoring cards. And then there's the prophecy cards, which is what you dedicate to your snake. And I think you kind of said that those have different patterns on them or certain colors or whatever that it wants to see, which I think overall made it really interesting to build snakes because you were trying to get 4 cards per snake and you were trying to optimize that card. So some of them have like a one-time thing and it's just straight up, if you do this 1 time, it's 4 points. Others had like, well, if you do red green twice or whatever, it's 2 points. If you do red green 3 times, then it's 5 points. And if you do it 5 times, it's I don't even know how many. So, and they had like all different types of cards like that, so different patterns, different scoring, different all sets of that. And so trying to kind of collect those while building your snake, while collecting body types, head types, whatever, and you only get to make 3 Cóatls and you can only have 2 active Cóatls at the same time
Mm-hmm.
is like, it was kind of a lot to manage in a really fun way.
Yeah, I would agree, and I like that there wasn't like a limit to the length that it could be. So you have all the room in the world.
God, so long.
You have all the room in the world to meet, if you want to. Ideally, you do want to add 4 cards to it because that's how you're going to get the most potential scoring for each one. You wouldn't necessarily, I guess, have to do that. But sometimes when you are trying to do that, it's just like, oh, I gotta get another set of that, red green or whatever. I've got to add 2 more whites or something to it. So it does make it interesting sometimes as to, especially when you do have kind of 2 that you're working on, and it's like, that one's kind of close. Do I just end it because I'm kind of close to full on my whatever area, and I'd really like to start that 3rd one? Do I just end it and kind of forego a couple points?
Yeah.
It does give you that kind of interesting decision. I am curious how it would play if someone was just like, I'm just going to try to meet like 1 requirement on that and see if it can also match with one of my cards and just make all these really small snakes really quick. I don't know how that would change the game.
We both ended up with some pretty decent sized snakes.
We did. So.
I think like the cards were like 12, 9, and I was like, and I'm at like 15.
Yeah. And I don't know. That probably isn't that big of a deal, but I maybe kind of wish you would have started with 2 or 3 cards versus just 1 of those kind of bigger scoring ones.
Yeah.
Just because you could be trying to work for something, and the other person could also be working for it. We only played at 2 players, and I think one of the times we were both kind of could have went for the same one. I don't know if we necessarily were really like going specifically for it, but could have scored something on it at least, because sometimes you just don't match any of the things if you weren't going for it.
Yeah.
Or if it kind of didn't go with the cards you put on to the Cóatl. So I kind of wish maybe you would have had 2 or 3 of your own personal ones, but then could also go for kind of some public ones, so you have multiple options at it.
Yeah, only able to
because there was
score
only
3.
There's only 2. I guess was that based on player count that there were 2 open? Yeah, because then I would have liked if you had at least a second one to also work towards, just in case.
Yeah, that would be really hard if someone sniped it from you, and then the next.
Especially if they only scored like 1 part of it, and you were going to score 2.
Right.
Like, and it's not even necessarily that they did it; it's just that happened to work with theirs. That's the only big thing that I was negative on. But otherwise, I thought that was really cool that you're building kind of these 3 different things, putting these scoring cards on them for each of them that kind of are looking for different things. I thought it was a fun little game. I actually thought there was a little bit more meat on it than I initially thought based on the look of it. I thought maybe it would be a little more light, maybe more family friendly, but I think there's actually a decent amount going on in the game.
Yeah, there definitely is, I think. And I just really enjoyed the pattern building that came with it. So, which was really hard to do based on the cards that you had, because not all of them worked well together.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's no way to get rid of them. So you either score them.
That's true.
Or.
That is true. That is another thing that I was like, I don't know about
Yeah.
sometimes with the cards, but maybe you're supposed to just wait and not load up on the cards like we did.
Well, you could work with
but in a
snakes,
two-player game, they're not really changing that much.
Yeah.
So unless the other player takes one, you're not going to see new cards until someone does something.
Right.
So
that's true.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably come in this game, first impressions anyway, maybe like a 7.5. There's just a few of those things that, like you said, maybe the cards in your hand sometimes is just like, it's just not going to work with this. Or, the bigger point ones, it's like, I can't score these cards on here and do that. And I would like to. And maybe if you have your own, a few more splayed out at least, just a few more options one way or another, it would just make it a little easier to meet something.
Yeah.
It just felt like only having 2 or potentially your 3rd one, if you didn't score that one already, just felt like it wasn't quite enough options. Just because there was already all these potential scoring things, I'd like to be able to also score a good amount for that too. Just feels satisfying.
Greedy.
A little bit greedy.
Yeah. I would probably come in about at an 8 for this one. I really enjoyed what this game did. There's so much drama between, like, not getting your body color out in the body segment piece, choosing one head or one tail, and, like, only having limited options on color for that. Trying to build the best pattern you can out of those cards, like, the ridiculousness of me, like, getting 6 greens, then getting 6 reds, and then deciding let's get 6 blacks on it too, just for fun. Like, not for fun, but because a card scored it that way. And, like, just completing the snakes, I think, was just so satisfying when, like, you had a head and tail and you could, like, call it done and whatever. So I would love to build more than 3 Cóatls, but I get why it has to be the way it is. Pieces are excellent. It's so vibrant. It's so cool how it all goes together. I don't know. I really liked that whole thing of, like, getting the pieces, putting your snake together, holding them, trying to build out these patterns. I had, like, 2 sets of cards and, like, this is for this snake, this is for that. And, like, how do I piece it together? What colors can I take now and hold on to because I'm going to need them because there's nothing else out there, and how long can I make that work and stuff like that. I just really enjoyed kind of that play of, like, how do I make this pattern with what I have at the table. So
yeah, that 100% makes sense. Yeah, I felt like the 3 was just the perfect amount.
Yeah,
but
we did barely get all. We both got all 3, but
we did
just barely.
Just
barely.
But yeah, like I said, go check out the unboxing video if you want to see all the great components in this one, the very colorful components. But if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see future videos like this. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.